Hello guys, welcome to the channel Talking with Jay Spring. I'm your host Jay, giving you a video on the channel today. Hello guys, welcome to the Journey to X-Men Dark Phoenix YouTube series, and this is the last video of this YouTube series. And today's video I'm giving you is a spoiler review for the new movie Dark Phoenix. Let's get straight into it. So guys, this is the spoiler review for X-Men Dark Phoenix. If you want to avoid all spoilers for the new movie, please do switch off now. We're going to go through all the scenes that I wanted to talk about and give my opinions on. Don't forget to let me know yours in that comment section. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into it with the opening scene. And this opening scene pretty much is the X-Men going up into space to save some astronauts being stuck up there. The president gives Charles a call and he sends the X-Men up there to save them. Nightcrawler gets out and teleports Jean into the ship so she can hold it together while it's deteriorating. And Nightcrawler teleports the people out, just about getting out in time before the blast hits them, but Jean is left behind. She now takes in all the Phoenix power. About this part, I really enjoyed it. I really felt they told the story well. I think this was a better introduction to the character than what we got in the X-Men Last Stand. And then we go on to some flashbacks of Jean Grey as a child in a car. And the mum and dad's in there and pretty much they're driving along. She's using her powers to switch the channel because her mum won't change the channel. She's like, well, how about when you're old enough to drive, you can put on whatever you want. So she's using her mind and basically her mum's losing it. Like, what are you doing sort of thing. And then in the end, she basically causes them to have a crash, which then kills her mother and injures her father. Charles Xavier picking Jean up from the hospital as her father is unable to deal with what she's just done, obviously losing his wife. So yeah, that pretty much happens, and I really did enjoy that as well, that side of the story of how Charles met Jean and stuff like that. It was very cool, and I like the fact that we got to see Charles with hair as well. I really enjoyed that, and the chemistry between the two. The young girl which they picked was very good actually in the movie, and I really enjoyed this whole introduction. And then we led to the plot twist which sends her on the warpath with this character, and the twist is her father is still alive. Obviously Charles got into her mind and changed her mind, obviously her memories and stuff, tweaked them for her own safety, and she's told her that her father's dead, her mother's dead, and in the end she finds out her father is still alive. That she goes, and then she goes to see him, finds out by reading his mind that he gave her away. He didn't want to keep her. After what happened that day, his life was pretty much ended. He lost his wife, he lost everything that day. And pretty much then it was the X-Men arriving, and once the X-Men arriving, it's all because Charles is starting to get really panicky now. He's feeling guilty and stuff that he never told her and stuff like this, and he wants her back in the team. But Jean is furious still with Charles for not telling her, and she just loses control, and she's still angry with Charles for what's happened. And this story was great, as I said from the beginning. This was all building up to Jean losing control of her powers, and it's starting to take over. Then we go on to Jean losing control and killing Raven and Mystique. This led to her being targeted because obviously Beast, Storm and Quicksilver were pissed pretty much. To be honest, they were pissed off that they've just seen Raven get killed. This led to Charles and Cyclops Scott obviously trying to defend her, stopping them as much as they can for killing her because they're in rage. And then right before Mystique dies, Beast basically goes up to her and he's trying to help her, obviously get her off. This pole's pretty much stuck right through her, bleeding out pretty much. And she confesses that she loves him, and then Beast is pretty much enraged as soon as she dies. He's devastated. It's really well done how they done that, and I really enjoyed Beast in this movie. From then on, we have the funeral. Charles is speaking at the funeral. You have Beast completely upset, crying, which then led on to Jean going to Magneto. And what happened with Magneto was he was just curious about the blood on the shirt. She's saying, how did you come out of being bad, pretty much? How did you change and stuff like that? Basically the whole thing. And then the army comes looking for Jean, as Jean don't confess who she's killed. And the army comes, they're trying to kill Jean, and Jean pretty much dominate. She tries killing them all. She actually destroys one helicopter, and then the other helicopter she's trying to destroy. Basically, Magneto's trying to help them get away, pretty much. He tried avoiding them actually staying. He tried getting rid of them before Jean came out, but Jean pretty much losing her control and pretty much taking over as this bad guy, pretty much tries to kill them, but he safely gets them away, gets them on the helicopter and pushes them away just about, showing how powerful Jean is against Magneto, one of the powerful people in this franchise, pretty much. Which then led on to a scene of a confrontation between Charles and Hank. Hank is pretty much crying downstairs in the kitchen, and Charles comes down, gets a drink, starts pouring a drink. And Hank is furious because what happened was Hank had a talk before Raven died, and Raven was trying to convince him to leave with her because, or she was saying she was going to leave because Charles is changing. He's getting all the fame, he's got the president on his side, he's taking power too much, pretty much. He's getting too cocky and too involved with the press and stuff like that. So, and he's a changed man. He's not considering people that are going out and doing the dirty work, pretty much, because obviously what happened to Jean, she took all this power and she started changing, and pretty much Hank dismissed it. He completely was like, no, Charles is fine, Charles is fine. And then obviously this happened, and because of Charles this happened, so now he's raging and he's confronting Charles about it. They're going off on one. A great segment, really well. Drama was 100% through this scene. I really enjoyed these two on the screen together. It was such a great experience to see them two go at each other. And pretty much this then leads on to Hank going to Magneto after Jean's obviously left and stuff. He tells Eric about Raven. Obviously Eric didn't know. Eric's pretty much pissed now, Magneto, and they're both enraged. They're both wanting to kill Jean, and that's pretty much this segment. And I really enjoyed this, but I didn't like the fact of Hank going down the bad path, but I could understand obviously what happened. But overall, so far, the movie is great. It's all leading up to this really good story being built, and then we're getting into the bits which everybody is pretty much hating on. And this is with the villain, and the villain is Jessica Chastain playing as a Vuk, who pretty much is a shape-shifting alien, pretty much. Now, the big story behind the scenes is that they had to change the final act of the movie because obviously the film was so much like Captain Marvel. Because if you think shape-shifting aliens, the villain trying to persuade her to be on the bad side, and she gets hit by this blast, it takes in all the power. It's pretty much a Captain Marvel story, so they have to change it. And pretty much before, basically this shape-shifting alien named Vuk pretty much wants the power inside Jean. So these aliens turn up, take out Jessica Chastain's human character, all her family and everything, and they take her body pretty much. They shape-shift into her. And basically this then leads to pretty much for the rest of the movie, them getting to Jean, them persuading Jean and manipulating her for the power pretty much. But then we go on to Magneto and Beast with a team of some other mutants, which obviously was helping Magneto on the camp where he lived, turn up to where Jean is. And so does Charles, Cyclops, Storm, Nightcrawler, the whole gang, to basically stop them from killing Jean. Charles still believes that he can help Jean take control of this power, and basically wants to repay the debt that he owes of changing her mind and stuff like that, getting in her mind. But then it leads to a massive face-off. Charles and Eric and everyone just going completely out. In the end, Magneto eventually gets through and gets into the building, and he's completely destroyed by Jean. She crushes his helmet, uses all the metal shards and puts it through him and sends him flying. Then we get Charles actually going in. But all this action that's going on outside is great, but a lot of people didn't like it, but I did. Once Charles arrives in there, he's basically trying to persuade her. She's like, okay, Charles, but you got to walk to me, pretty much. And he's like, that's impossible. You know I can't walk. Then she makes him walk. She's using her powers. He's walking all funny. It did look funny at first, but I really enjoyed it. I just love James McAvoy so much. It's unbelievable. And Sophie Turner as well. She's done great in this scene. But also Vuk beside her as well, convincing obviously to go against her teammates and obviously Eric and all that. So she's still manipulating her in this sequence. And then the army and all the forces arrive start taking out people, like tasering them and stuff like that, taking them out, pretty much putting them asleep. Then we lead on to this finale. Obviously, they're all captured on a train. They're waiting for the shapeshifters to arrive. As the shapeshifters see them get onto the vehicles and stuff like that, they see all the army. The cops die pretty much, except for one, which lets them loose because they're all like locked up and stuff. Before that, they're all just talking about Jean pretty much. Charles is convinced he can help Jean. Eric's completely against it with Hank. But then pretty much it's all convinced they've got to basically defend Jean against these shapeshifters, because if they get the power, then they're going to be strong and all this. So they all team up and pretty much they kill all the little shapeshifters, all Vuk's friends pretty much. Then Vuk comes in and she's just too strong for the X-Men and Eric and all that. But we get some really good sequences in this, and you get to see a lot of people from side characters come through in this sequence as well, which is great. In the end, pretty much leads to Jean awakening because Charles gets into her head finally, and she finally wakes up. And in the end, she goes, "You want my power?" Pretty much, she takes her up into the space. Then she goes, "Have my power," and she lets her suck in all the power, so she explodes. So does Jean, and then you have some fire, Pheonix in the sky. And then the X-Men are devastated because Jean's pretty much dead. This part, I liked all the action on the train. It was great. It was probably the best action at the movie. But the whole Pheonix fire in the sky and stuff like that, it did feel a bit cringy in a way. But yeah, it was good for what they did. They could have done a lot better with the second half of the movie for sure. But it ends up with Charles and Eric playing chess together, and you see a Pheonix fly in the sky, which ends the movie pretty much. There was some little bits that happened in between, but that is the majority of the spoilers I wanted to talk to you with. I felt the first half of the movie was absolutely phenomenally done, building up this story really well, but the only thing it lacked was a villain. And the villain was only built up in the second half of the movie, which really made this movie feel like there was no stakes apart from Jean, pretty much, which you knew it was either Jean was going to die or the power was going to be taken away from it or something. It was just a storyline which was basic. So, but there's the villain side of things, and the second half of the movie intends on how it basically was done pretty much. Just could have been done a lot better. This movie is no way a totally awesome movie. It's no way one of the best X-Men movies, but it still is a decent movie in my eyes. I think it's very, very gunned down at the moment a lot, and you're getting all these critics like Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that coming out saying that this movie is absolutely awful. I don't believe this is an awful movie, but I can understand where people are coming from, especially if you're going into the cinema with high hopes. You're definitely going to be like gutted if you come out with when you went in with high hopes. But I went in with a neutral perspective of I just wanted a good movie which was better than Apocalypse. I feel like we got that. You can see its troubles. I just wish they would have just dealt with it better, but it's the final movie. It's a goodbye. I think it was a decent goodbye, not the best send-off. But you got some great performances here from some great actors, which I'm gutted to see pretty much when it comes to James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Sophie Turner. They're the main three for me, really, that I'm gutted to see going. So, guys, that was the spoiler review from me. Don't forget to leave your overall thoughts on the spoilers down below in that comment section. If you want to go ahead and check out my rating, my official rating, and all my points without spoiling, there's a non-spoiler review on the channel as well. If you've missed the whole journey so far, do not worry. There's a link in that description for the playlist, which will take you through from X-Men 1 all the way up until this point. Reviewed the whole franchise of the X-Men. And yesterday, guys, check out the video. I also ranked all the X-Men franchise from worst to best in my personal perspective. Don't forget to go ahead and check that. That was a fun video to make. Thank you to everybody who supported this YouTube series and supports my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please do smash the thumbs up. Lets me know you enjoyed the content I'm giving you. Subscribe and hit that bell if you're new here. You ain't going to want to miss the stuff coming up on the channel. So without further ado, guys, I've been me, you've been you, and I'll see you next time on Talking with Jay Springer.